22nd, 2015 meeting of the Boston Common Council to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary of State's open meeting website indicating that this meeting was posted on October 20th at 4:33 p.m. So we are in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. I also want to take a moment to note that since the council's last meeting, two members of our community have passed away. Will Gervasio, who was a longtime member of the Board of Canvassers, current member of the Board of Canvassers, and Brad Gorham, who was a former solicitor for the town of Boston. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence in their honor, please. Thank you. Okay, public comment. I have two people who signed in for public comment. So public comment is for speaking to items that are not listed on the agenda. If the item is on the agenda, then you'll be recognized at the time of that agenda item. Mr. Balfour, do you want to speak?
I thought it was signing in.
Okay, so when you get to the agenda item, you'll be recognized. Mr. Sebastian?
Yeah, I didn't know quarterly reports were on, but over the years, I finally realized that the libraries never do a quarterly report. Like this, the fire stations who receive money, quasi-public entity, the libraries don't. And everything, they never write a quarterly report, and I think they should. They take our money and we should know what's going on.
Yeah, I think they do write a quarterly report.
I just don't think it includes finances, I think it's just some.
Well, I do think it should include finances. That's the issue. Right? Thank you.
Okay, that's who signed up for public comment. Minutes from October 8th.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes from October 8th as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Warrants?
I make a motion that we accept payroll warrant number 14 in the amount of $41,693.14.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Payroll warrant 15.
I make a motion that we accept payroll warrant number 15 in the amount of $41,558.40.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. General warrant number 8.
I make a motion that we accept general warrant number 8 in the amount of $234,099.08.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Monthly reports?
Make a motion that we accept the following monthly reports as presented. Building and Zoning Department, Department of Public Works, Finance Department, Human Services, Planning Department, Police Department, Rhode Island Resource Recovery Corporation, and the Tax Assessor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the reports? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Quarterly reports. These are the ones due in October.
I make the motion that we accept the following quarterly reports for July to September as presented. Engineering Board, Forster Central Fire Company, Forster Home Repair, which I have a question about, Forster School Committee, Planning Board, Recreation Committee, South Forster Fire Station, Tax Board of Review, and Zoning Board of Review.
Is there a second?
Second.
You have a question, Denise?
I do. The Forster Home Repair, is that our there is a spreadsheet here for Foster CDBG home repair program. Is that what it's now called?
Now, let me find exactly what you. Is this what you're looking
It's a spreadsheet, yep.
for?
Yes.
It's called Foster Home Repair Program. The money comes from CDBG grants, so that's probably why it's there.
So
That's,
this is how it's presented?
it's terrible, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. The previous, this is from the,
Joe Dollar.
the previous person gave us sort of a textual thing, and in fact, I believe Sue communicated that with him that we wanted something different.
Yes, I'm right back.
At least bigger too.
That is big, I enlarged it.
The thing that I wanted to say about this, so hopefully we'll get a better one. We can exclude this if you like, from the motion. But looking at it, it has numbers from April, May, and June, so it has the numbers from last quarter. But it doesn't have any numbers from July, August, and
Now,
September.
that was good, that was my other question, when I spoke to Mr. Garlick, because they were behind on their quarterly reports, he said that they would get in, so I'm wondering if this is what he was submitting for the previous quarterly reports. And it's not actually for the July to September, but it's for,
I think that's correct. I think it's for the previous quarter, but, seeing as how it really does have new information, I would suggest we exclude this from the motion
okay,
and wait until he brings us one that is actually informative as opposed to a minuscule spreadsheet. This doesn't tell us how much money is left. It just doesn't, it really doesn't give us any way to assess it. So I would motion to amend the motion to exclude foster home repair.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
uh,
Aye, so foster home repair is excluded. Vote to approve the balance of the reports
I
as
still have a
made in the
question.
motion. Further discussion?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm confused as to whether this is quarterly report 1 or quarterly report 3. Some of them report them as quarter at the same time frame, July to September. Some of them refer to as quarter 1, some refer to as quarter 3. And is there a way, I talked to Susan today, and I understand the confusion, but is there a way we can let them know that in fact it's quarter 1?
Sure, we'll let them all know that.
Not that.
I'm thinking I should send, because there is always confusion. I guess the average person doesn't understand the fiscal year as compared to the year. So everyone thinks first quarter is January through March. That's the problem. So what if I send out an email and just try to get everyone on the same page? When they come in, I know what they are, so I put them where they belong, but if you want to clarify, I would know.
I would appreciate that, thank you.
Sure, no problem.
That ends my questions.
Any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving quarterly reports, signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries unanimously. There is another agenda item for the quarterly reports that we'll do in July, which we do not have yet.
We're kind of disappointed considering I was told they were all being
You
last
contacted all of
Tuesday.
them,
I
yes.
contacted all of them, so it was a disappointment.
So there is no further information on that, other than, no, they're just not here. Okay. No update. Old business, we have a bid award, 2009 Freightliner. This is for the plow and sander setup for a large military truck. I have a letter from the Public Works Director. I have had the opportunity to review the bid for the 2009 Freightliner plow and sander setup with necessary hydraulic upgrades. That was recently submitted and opened at the Town Council meeting on October 8, 2015. I recommend that the town use W.H. Rose. The total cost is $45,346, which is the low bid for this project. What is the pleasure of the council?
One question, it was the only bid, if I'm not correct, right? I mean, it says it puts it out as a low bid. I think that's incorrect information. It was the only bid.
Okay.
And I think that's important when you're looking at a
recommendation of the DPW director and award the bid to WH Rose for the total cost of $45,346.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion?
Joe, how many people actually came and looked at that? I know you mentioned,
3 companies came and looked at it.
including this one.
This one included, that would be the John, them, and Madigan.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye, opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Abatements?
I make the motion that we honor the request of the tax assessor for real estate first appeal abatement totaling $284.89.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Abstention?
Oh, sorry,
Okay, motion carries unanimously.
I make a motion that we honor the request of the tax assessor for motor vehicle abatement totaling $54.20.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously.
I make a motion that we honor the request of the tax assessor for the real estate abatement 2014 tax roll totaling $3.64.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay, next item, appointments to the juvenile hearing board. I actually had a couple of juvenile hearing board appointments expire. It was Mr. Janis and Mr. Chippendale. We contacted them both. Mr. Chippendale responded saying he wanted to be reappointed. We have his email. I don't think we've heard from Mr. Janis yet.
Not yet, Jane wasn't in today, so it would be in her email, but I don't have it.
Okay, so we have a request for reappointment to the juvenile hearing board from Mr. Chippendale. What's the pleasure of the council?
I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Mike Chippendale to the Gloucester Juvenile Hearing Board.
Second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Bid opening for winter sand. Oh, thank you. Okay, so the first bid is Barnes Concrete Company out of Putnam, Connecticut. Price delivered, $13.50 per ton. Price picked up by the town, $9.45 per ton. Second bid is from Rawson Materials, Putnam, Connecticut. Price delivered per ton, $12.99. Price picked up by the town, $8.99. The bid is from Cardi Corporation out of Warwick, Rhode Island. Price delivered, $21 per ton. Price picked up by the town, $14.50. per ton. The next one is PJ Keating Company from Lunenburg, Massachusetts. Price delivered $15.50 per ton. Price picked up $9.20 per ton. The final one, off Fran Boys Sand and Stone out of Brooklyn, Connecticut. Price delivered, $11.50 per ton. Price picked up, $7.50 per ton. Okay, that completes all of the bids. There are no more. So I will, need a motion to refer these to the DPW director for review. Second,
Second.
discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, Class F liquor license application, Thornton Eagle Club, for November 8th, 2015.
Make a motion that we grant a liquor license class F to the Thornton Beagle Club for November 8th, 2015.
Second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Class F liquor license, Thornton Beagle Club for December 13th.
I make a motion that we grant a class F liquor license to the Thornton Beagle Club for December 13th, 2015.
Second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Class F2 liquor license application, North Central Chamber of Commerce for December 17th.
I make a motion that we grant a class F2 liquor license to the North Central Chamber of Commerce for December 17th to be held at the Foster Country Club.
Second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Foster Home Journal articles, this is something Mr. Franco asked to be put on the agenda.
Yes, we have been submitting articles pretty regularly for the monthly Foster Home Journal articles. I was just wondering what the council felt as far as the articles that are presented, if they have any topics. We've been doing it for about a year now. I didn't know if somebody else was interested in it, or if there's anything that you would like addressed in the Foster Home Journal.
I'm satisfied.
I didn't know if John or Gordon had anything that they wanted to, would like to add in the article, or if you want to submit something.
All set.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. H, reassignment of DPW capital equipment monies. We have a letter, recommendation request from the Public Works Director. I'll read this into the record. Will council members, due to the mounting issues with the John Deere 410G backhoe with repair estimates over $20,000, I am requesting the balance of capital money approved for a new dump truck to be reallocated to purchase a new backhoe. The need for a new dump truck has been reduced due to the acquisition of the 1991 BMY six-wheel dump truck and the 2009 Freightliner 10-wheel dump truck, both of which are being fitted with plows and sanders. BMY is currently being retrofitted with existing equipment, while the Freightliner is being fitted with new equipment for the bidding process. Replacement of the backhoe has become a priority due to mounting major repairs and the significant role it plays in both the summer and winter. My intention will be to bid out the backhoe that will have the ability to fill in for the payloader when needed. For example, please see attachment. We will have approximately $99,000 remaining earmarked for DPW dump truck after equipping the Freightliner, which should be sufficient to purchase a new backhoe with the necessary specifications and with the trade-in of our old backhoe. So when the letter, the recommendation came out of the planning board last year for capital, it specified a dump truck. Because it's specified a dump truck, it's not acceptable for the director to shift it to a different piece of equipment. Needs council approval to do that. So this is his recommendation. What is the pleasure of the council?
For discussion purposes, I make a motion that we honor the request of the DPW director for the balance of the capital money approved for the new dump truck to be reallocated to the purchase of a new backhoe.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, for discussion.
I'd like to hear more about the reason. I understand it costs this amount of money. I fear that we might be opening a Pandora's box, if you will, that now everybody's gonna wanna switch around, oh, look, there's a better toy in town.
Well-
This,
Due to the LESO program and not knowing what we're gonna get, when we're gonna get it, sometimes we have to reallocate things and prioritize.
this is actually the first time I've ever, granted I haven't been on council long, but this is the first time I've ever received a request like this, so.
Well, we haven't gotten LESO equipment before in the past, so it's hard to say what we're gonna get, when we're gonna get it, and, you know, when it's gonna come online.
Could you tell me exactly what's wrong with the backhoe?
Yeah, actually, I can give you this. This was a quote taken last year, and the hydraulics have become considerably more problematic this time. That was from Schmidt equipment.
Again, this is the first time I'm hearing any problems with this piece of equipment. And for you to throw this on, it's just gonna take a little bit too much for me to sit there and go through all of this while we're sitting here. And, it's kind of quick for me to make a decision tonight.
Well, we have time, I mean, we can put it off to another meeting and do the research on it. The backhoe does have over 7,000 hours on it, and we do use it extensively.
You do understand $7,000 is not a lot of hours.
It's a considerable amount for what we have.
All right.
How much do you expect the new backhoe cost?
The backhoe, if you trade our old one in, it should cost us between $80,000 and $90,000 for the one, the type we're looking at. We're looking at a backhoe loader, which is a bigger backhoe that can double for the payload, which is also, you know, getting tired. We have to start looking towards the future, or we're gonna end up purchasing everything at once, and there won't be much trading value if you wait too long.
What are they offering you for a trading value on this?
Well, I don't have an exact trading value for it, but the different companies are between $15,000 to $20,000. But that's a gain, you know, with the price.
Yeah, what year is that for, 10?
2002, I believe.
So this backhoe replacement was the next piece of equipment in the capital requests of the DPW department. And it was behind the dump truck and plow. But since we received the dump truck and plow through LESO, and the dump truck through LESO, and we're funding the plow here this evening, we don't need to spend that money on the dump truck anymore. We don't need that dump truck anymore. So this $100,000 or $91,000 could all roll back into capital, and it could be re-requisitioned in a couple of months from now. And hope that the current machine gets us through the winter, or we can just move ahead at this point. We have the money, we have the need, and we'll be 6 months ahead of the game.
Has there been discussion with the planning board as far as this in capital funds and what they're,
Now with the planning board, there was who talked to Joe Carey? Kelly talked to Joe Carey.
I don't know, Joe.
Mr. Barry's
Did I
here?
know Joe Carey?
Not recently, I didn't.
No, I didn't think so.
I'm
No?
sorry.
I just
Not
not recently.
recently.
I discussed it with Mike Carpenter just in passing. And,
I can tell you that I discussed it with Kelly, the legality of, changing or seemingly changing, but I think we came to the conclusion, both legally and accounting-wise, capital is capital is capital, and we're not shifting from department to department. So basically, as you said, we're kind of more just going down the list of needs within that department, and it is capital money. So you're really not changing the character of the money in any way. It was given to that department to spend for machinery. And again, if we don't need the dump truck because we suddenly were able to get a dump truck for everyone's efforts, we spent some money on moving the dump truck, that was already absorbed. So the money is there and can be used for equipment for DPW.
Mr. Joe?
Historically, this town has been behind the 8 ball as far as DPW equipment. This is an opportunity without impacting a budget to get a brand new piece of equipment that will last another, 12, 13 years,
should be,
you know?
it should.
It does kind of seem like a no-brainer.
It's an opportune time when we still have some trading value with our old one and before something major goes wrong.
Why not? At least Gordon has asked for a little more time to look over the repair estimates, and it doesn't sound like there's an immediate need, so I have no trouble with tabling this next meeting.
I don't either. I don't know the first thing about,
I'd like to
Backhoes
go over that,
and-
going over it a little bit, and 80% of that bill's all the way to charges, Schmidt's.
Just about an hour.
A lot of it's just pretty much repair, wear and tear maintenance stuff.
Where it did pins,
Bushings,
things like that, bushings. It does have a hydraulic problem that we're gonna have to deal with.
You got on there, plus having issues with the hydraulic pump, what kind of issues you having with it?
You'd have to talk to Gary specifically about that, but he tells me it's getting very tight, and Kip also has had problems with it at times, it won't move at all.
The bucket pins, the bushings, the extended arm, the extension,
That's typical.
they wear.
Yep. That's why we grease it so much, so we cut down on that wear.
I'd like to definitely take a look at it.
Yeah. That'd be no problem.
Again, this is the first time I've heard of any problems with the backhoe.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table. John, you seconded it, you expressed interest in letting them go and look at it and letting people get some information. You want to throw your second?
Yes.
For the motion?
I do.
Okay, so we will do some investigation, look at it, and carry this as an agenda item to the next meeting.
I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time or not, but Gordon, if I could tag along, I would appreciate that, because I'm sure it'd be an education. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, DPW director's truck usage. So I'm gonna let the police chief and DPW director address this. This is actually something that Mr. Hall has asked us to put on the agenda after the septic system issue at the police stations. If you guys want to talk about it.
Yeah, and again, this is something that was the latest incident. The police department called out the DPW trucker in the middle of the night, 8, 9 o'clock, whatever time it was. He responded directly from home, responded directly to our situation at the police department. And, he didn't have, equipment in his vehicle, he didn't have emergency lighting in his vehicle. He was blocking the road because of the situation flowing into the roadway and, or towards the roadway. But again, it goes back years, been here 20 years. Typically, probably throughout the state, to respond to a scene, a tree down, whatever the case, you know, a washout. Again, sometimes it's kind of essence, you know, this particular scenario, you know, DPW director lives half a mile from town, or the highway garage, and we're coming up on the winter time. If we need the DPW to assess the situation, you know, in this particular case, you have to respond from home to the garage, open the garage, defrost the vehicle, clean the vehicle up, and again, you know, he's on call, and, you know, I asked, Mr. Halls about it, and I'm like, why doesn't the DPW director, have a vehicle? You know, as far as I can remember, they've always had a vehicle. And I asked, Mr. Halls, you know, about it,
So after that incident, that conversation, Mr. Holmes asked to put it on, his intention was to make a motion to allow the DPW director to take the town vehicle home in the evening so that he can respond to emergencies at night.
I wasn't sure. I would make the motion that we allow the DPW director to use the town vehicle after hours within the town of Forster to report to emergency situations. Does that cover it?
Is he taking it home with him in the
Yes.
evening? Okay,
Yes.
okay, I think that was that. Is there a second
I'll second that.
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay, but not tonight because you're going on vacation.
I thought he was on
Oh,
vacation.
vacation now, he's on
He's
vacation.
going away every morning.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm going away.
not, you can come back again Monday.
Okay, the last item is improvements to Bob's Hill Road. Just wanted to make everyone on the council aware. There's been a conversation, ongoing conversation with regards to Bob's Hill Road, improvements and widening. Essentially, part of it started last winter when the whole issue of us taking care of the road, Bob's Hill Road, across the Coventry line, and we tried to extricate ourselves from that, and chicken did involved. So we continue to do that. We're getting our equipment down that road in the winter time. It's a thin road, it's a narrow road, it's a curvy road, it's a hilly road, and we needed to do something. Bob Plow comes upon oncoming traffic, there's no place for them to go in opposite directions. So the DPW started to do some work on that road this summer, maybe a month and a half ago. Mowing it, widening it. There are a number of folks on the road who want it widened. There are some individuals on the road who do not want it touched at all. So, who say they actually own the road. The town doesn't own the road. The people who live on the road own the road. So we're in this bit of a dilemma right now, where is it a town road or is it not a town road? If it's a town road, and I think it probably is, then we need to maintain it so we can do what we need to do. If it's a private road, then it's an entirely different thing. So we've been having conversations with the people on the road, some of them are here this evening, so I'm going to let them speak so that everyone on the council knows. The solicitor's been involved in the conversation, looking at land evidence records, trying to ascertain who actually owns the road, and we'll let her speak to it as well. Do you want to address anything first?
If you want me to, I was involved when it came to pass that Mr. Ed Balfour was a resident on the road, it's 41 and a half, decided that he had a claim on the road and he did not want the DOT to work on the road at all. I believe it was his intention to close the road or at least allow only the people he wanted to allow on the road. So I went out there, we viewed the road. I had a little discussion with him, and then I spoke to him again after, and I spoke to an attorney that he spoke to. I took all the information that he has given me historically from, looks like 1888, 1911, 1913, and then with the staff, the town clerk and her clerks, got as much up-to-date information, deeds, plat maps, survey, class 1 surveys from 2010, 2012, that were done in that area and on his land, because there was a subdivision of that very property that he owned recently. I find nothing that would tell me that the owner of his property, now him, has any ownership claim to the roadway itself. In fact, everything, the plat maps, the survey that was done and recorded, points to the interior angles of the stone walls themselves, which are usually the markers in all of these cases. So he may own property on either side of the roadway, but it's from the stone wall interior angles in. And in fact, almost all of the deeds in the town hall and plat maps refer to Bob's Hill Road itself being the division point of these parcels. And I went all the way back in his property. I did speak to an attorney that he spoke to. I spoke to him again today. But the question here is, whose burden is it when the town has to go out and widen what appears to be for 20, 30 or more years, a town road that the town has taken care of through summer, winter, rain, etc., and someone comes out and says, I own this road, or a part thereof, whose burden is it? And inherently in the law, and then in Title 20, actually Title 24 in the highways of the town, the state law that has to do with town highways, the burden then shifts to the property owner once he is noticed, and I would definitely say that notice was given when we all converged on the roadway and had this large discussion, and then I've been working with him ever since, and I will write him another letter. Notice has to be given, and that the town may go ahead and do whatever the council will be the body to decide, whether the council sees fit to make that road improvements, wider, safer, whatever the council sees fit, and then the burden is then on that claimant to go to the Superior Court, the Court of Equity, to dispute that if he wants to dispute it. So I've sat and spent a lot of time, and the town has spent its personnel time trying to make sure that we're on good footing, and for everything that I see many factors pointing to the fact that he does not own the roadway or any part thereof, and nothing saying that he does.
So, because there is an ownership dispute, okay, claim, this is not really a situation you want to send our DPW guys in down there, open up the road and perhaps get into conflict with the residents.
Has any work been done thus far?
A bit. There was a meeting where the DPW, I was in attendance, and Mr. Balfour, his wife, walked the road in front of his house and had a conversation about how we could go about addressing this curve. Make it a little bit wider. We made it a little bit wider. We agreed on 8 inches, 10 inches, something like that, beyond where it was, and we were going to do that work. We did that work, but subsequent to that work, Mr. Balfour indicated that we went too far. He owns the road, and we went too far, we were on his property, and he wanted it returned to its original state, back to the family road. And other residents on the road, seeing us do the work, came forward and said, let me not use all the adjectives they used, but 6 inches, 8 inches, that's not enough. You need to open it up so 2 cars can pass on the road. So we're in a situation where we have some folks on the road that want it widened, some folks on the road that don't want it widened, and now it's coming to the council to make a decision and decide how we go forward with this dilemma.
I actually made the mistake of going up there. I heard something was going on. I had to talk to someone and went up there. Got my tape measure up because I was going to measure 2 rods, which is that 16 and a half feet each way. It's just about every town in the town owns is a 2-rod road except for I can name 3 of them, but that's irrelevant. And I had a conversation basically was told the same thing, they were gonna get a lawyer, they owned it, they proved they could own it. But this comes down to, you mentioned it at the beginning, it's a public safety issue, so, if we do nothing and something happens, it's definitely a public safety issue on that shop corner. So we've got an obligation for the safety of the people in the town, as far as I'm concerned. And if they want to bring it to court and prove that they own the road, I think to me it's a pretty easy situation. It would be a lot harder if you had one property owner on one side and another property owner on the other side saying, hey, that 33 feet is over that way, and he says, no, that 33 feet is over that way. This to me is a no-brainer. There's 33 feet. He owns both sides of the road. Public safety issue, the town owns 33 feet, and we need to make that corner safe. And he can do what he
Say
says.
something? Yeah, as soon as the council is done, I'm gonna allow people in the audience to speak, and I'll recognize Mr. Balfour first, and then I'll go to Mr. Balfour.
There have been several suggestions about what was said, what wasn't said, how it was said, when it was said.
I was only.
Some of this is like they explained.
Thank you.
With the attachments. Okay, which includes notices that I received from Mr. Lewis and how this whole thing started. As to the property known as 9 Bob's Hill Road, also called Legendary, while we have provided the town officials copies of deeds which show proof of uninterrupted ownership of said property for over 100 years, 3 of them I did not print the entire portion of. Also, which was shown describing the deed of Charles Poole, and subsequently included in the living will, also recorded in the town of Forster records. We have not found or been provided with any evidence where even 1 inch of property was given any individual by legal purchase or transfer outside of said Charles A. Poole's family. There may have been actions by individuals directing, acting alone, or in concert with others, such as the service of the town, but no record of proper action impacting on the property is found in town records. Perhaps an official offered some assistance outside of the owner's knowledge. As there is an easement for the power lines, perhaps that was what caused the town to commence voluntary service on the pathway. But at no time has there been any offer or acceptance of the transfer of ownership. In the past, the town has attempted to develop maps showing plats recorded by town officials. But the failure to abide by the recorded deeds is not the fault of property owners. But over time, such incorrect map description may result in an unlawful taking, as well as excessive tax collection if not correctly pursuant to the legal deeds as recorded. I have prepared an offer to continue a limited right of passage through our property. It was given to the president of the town council. But I do not want an excessive expansion of what Charles Poole allowed in the past. While individuals can access Potter Road as an alternative route, some have now demanded that the town expand their ability to utilize our property beyond the voluntary use previously extended. That is not what Mr. Lewis originally requested in his memo dated 7/15 as attached. It would appear that a reasonable alternative for the town would be to purchase a right-of-way across property located near or at the top of Bob's Hill to connect to Plainfield Pike. This would avoid both the wetlands issue that exists on our property, the culvert and pipe is installed by DEM for Charles Poole, as well as the ledge issue that creates a problem to those now seeking to expand the pathway around the curve in front of our home for their needs. If such concerns were valid, the alternative route would appear best to serve the increased traffic needs. Such actions would also avoid potential legal costs to the town for the improper taking of land, of which the town is on notice. We have extended the use of the former allowance as to the width of the path prior to September 24, 2015. It's the town's decision. I would also like to bring out simple little fact. that my wife's great-great-great-grandfather is the one that built 9 Bob's Hill Road.
John, may I ask one question?
Sure.
Mr. Balfour, perhaps you could just enlighten us on this. I have in front of me, you can look at it, a minor subdivision called the Pool Plat, and it was a registered land surveyor from Flint Surveys revised this and presented it, it was recorded. And someone from your family, I'm guessing you or your wife, went before the planning board with this to divide something, to give it to a daughter perhaps, is that?
Charles Poole gave it to his daughter.
Gave it to his daughter. This was revised January 12, 2010. So you're saying that would be Charles Poole that was involved?
That was Charles Poole.
Okay. And at that time, this is a class 1 survey, and it was used with the council.
Yes, and it was used in accordance with what the town planning board required.
Correct. And
Which is
in
not
this, well, Mr. Poole's interest is all he can give to you. If Mr. Poole did not believe that he owned the road,
He had a deed. I sent you a copy.
if Mr. Poole did not acknowledge or believe he owned the road and did not have a deed as such, because nothing you gave me says that, he
The
could
deed-
not have transferred something to you.
I can
So
only ask
I
you
have
to
to
read the
say-
deed, ma'am. If
I
you
have
read the
to-
deed, the description of the deed does not include any road on it whatsoever. The deed extends the complete distance across.
So when that subdivision was approved, where's the frontage for the lot? The road is not. So for the subdivision, this is a town road, because you can't subdivide on a private right of way.
It is, and this is his area. This was the subdivision at that point, and the line of Bob's Hill Road, and the property line is inside the interior angles of the stone walls.
So there's 300 feet of frontage on Barb's Hill Road. Otherwise, it wasn't subdivided.
Yes.
So you can't have frontage on a public road for purposes of a subdivision and then say it's not a public road.
The fact remains, the deed that Mr. Poole has, which I gave a copy to the attorney, describes the land as it was for the past 100 and some years, and it describes the land on each side that it owns, and there is no road there. When Mr. Poole bought the property, there was a horse path down the road between the poles.
I
Mr.
can't say to what your deed says, whether or not it was a proper instrument, whether or not the description is accurate. But that's not evidence satisfactory to me that Barb's Hill Road is not a town road.
All I can tell you is historically, the deeds are all the same. They've all been provided to the town. If you don't want to believe the deeds, we'll see you in court.
If that was the case, there wouldn't be a single house lot built on that road.
And the subdivision would have been unlawful.
That was my question.
The fact there was no subdivision when these houses were started.
In fact, this seems like a representation that they have 300 feet of frontage on a public road.
That was his daughter's and his, yes. Charles Poole created that and acknowledged it and went before the planning board with it as a registered document.
And the
Unfortunately,
subdivision
the
is
attorney that handled it just died. If he hadn't died this week, he would have been here tonight.
I have mortgage deeds that I was provided, and some other documentation. I can certainly share them with you. There's nothing in those deeds that acknowledges anything. In fact, it acknowledges a single-family dwelling, a barn, and an outbuilding specifically, not a car path, not a horse path, not a dirt road, nothing. Nothing that was transferred ever from a prior owner. That's the description.
I have one clarification and one question. The clarification is that in your document here, you refer to 9 Barb's Hill, but in Renee's introduction of you, it says 41.5 Barb's Hill. Is
It's
it one and the
incorrect.
same?
It's 9 Bob's Hill.
It's not 41.5. Okay.
They're doing an awful lot.
No, I was just confused.
Addresses.
So my other question is, that document there that's in front of Mr. Lewis and Mr. Estivo, this is a document that went before the planning board, and it was approved, and Mr. Poole was the one who went before asking for this division? and the planning board accepted this division, or granted this division, and Mr. Poole agreed with it. And it states that it's Bob's Hill Road, and it's a public road.
Is that
None of this
recorded?
action appears.
Doesn't that get recorded as well?
Yes, it is. This plan shall be filed under Bob's Hill Road. So it is recorded, so it seems like Mr. Poole felt that Bob's Hill Road was a public road. Okay, thank you.
I want to recognize a couple of hands. Madam Purple, I think I saw your hand first. And then,
When Mr. Poole bought that house, there was a road there, he bought it from White's, and Bob's Hill Road was there. And if he has no proof, as Mrs. Bevelacqua said, there is no proof he owns the road, then and Mr. Estivo made a point that I was gonna make, that when Mr. Poole wanted to subdivide it for his other daughter, you can't do that if you don't have the road frontage. Road frontage is the road frontage. You have to have road frontage if you own it. It makes no sense. I mean, what happened with King Road when he owned that one?
Thank you.
ma'am?
What happened on King Road? Let me explain.
No, we don't want to know.
This one for-
And it had the same
Lady
problem.
Merchant, 14 Barksdale Road. My husband and I have lived there for over 40 years. Mr. Poole, Mr. Balfour's father-in-law, was a valued neighbor, and while he didn't like a lot of improvement on the road, he never expressed any ownership of the road. It was more than neighborly. And this is just not really very neighborly. As far as the public safety issue, the problem is for those of us who live beyond Mr. Balfour's home, there's a shop curve that goes downhill, and there's a ditch there. So if one were to pull over for oncoming traffic, especially in the icy conditions, you fall in the ditch. I think that there's only been 3 accidents on the road in the 42 years I've lived there. And when we moved in, there was grass down the middle of the road at the far end, but it was a road, and clearly a road. So that said, I would say that just usage would give us a little bit of credibility here.
I just want to say, Cal Riccio, I've lived there since '87, been in the town since '61. The town of Forster owns Bob's Hill Road, not us, not Mr. Balfour. It's the town of Forster's road. Anybody in the town has as much right to drive on that road safely as any other road. We're talking about a corner that I pull at least 2 to 3 people a winter out, which I don't mind, because that's what we do up there, because they're always falling in it. We don't want a super highway, we don't want it widened. There's 2 distinct stone walls running the entire length of that road. It's perfect. The town of Forster owns the center. And it's funny that it's only from his house down that the problem is, because he never goes that direction. He goes from there to Plain Woods Road, and there's no problem on that section, it seems, even though he owns property on the other side of the road there too. We don't want a super highway, we need it graded so 2 cars can pass, plus a garbage truck, plus a school bus, plus a fire truck or rescue. That's all. All of us, we've never complained or asked for anything since we've been here. Now all of a sudden, like my wife mentioned, when he lived on King Road in '94, he owned King Road too. So every place he goes, he owns the road. He can't prove he owns the road, and if he can, then go for it. The town of Forster owns the road, and they can grade it and cut the brush so I don't tear my truck to shreds on it. And that's how we feel, that's all we want. Take the rocks off the edge of the driveway that are there that don't belong. No more sticks, no more logs pushed over on the sides because he doesn't own it. It needs to stop now. No more foolishness. We've seen nothing from lawyers. We've seen nothing but recorded surveys from way back. I own to my stone wall. Chris owns to his stone wall. That's it. Tommy owns to his, Paul, everybody. The whole length of the road. There's no problem until he moved there. And that's it. I don't want to hear this anymore. It's not his road. It never was his road.
King Road wasn't his road. I don't care what he thinks. Go to court, spend the money, and go to Superior Court and let's have at it. We need the road widened so we can pass there without getting killed. That's all we want. That's all we want. No big deal.
I just have a question. I'm Suzanne Poole, I would like to know specifically what the improvements are that the town would like to do to Barb's Hill Road. Mr. Lewis, we received from you an email saying you wanted to set up a meeting, which was fine, and I thought the meeting went very well. I thought everybody was very accommodating, and I thought that the resolution was Mr. Cardillo put some stakes in the side of the road. And he came in and, I don't know where his sidekick is, if he's here or not, but he was going to clear the gutter, which was fun. Everybody was happy with that. There was absolutely no problem. Within a week, I was told, we put stakes on the side of the road. I was told that we were not to do that. I can stand corrected, Mr. Lewis, you told me, put stakes around the culvert. Let's face it, the bridge in Coventry is on its way out. If the culvert on Barb's Hill Road is destroyed on that end, how are these people going to get up and down? Repair it properly, that's what they do. They repair roads properly. They will do it properly.
Well, I've never seen it done. Now, my father just lived there.
I'm sorry, we can't have argument
My-
between people in the audience.
My apologies.
Direct your comment.
That's all right. I think everybody's at an explosive state. Everyone is at an explosive state, and that isn't my intention. First of all, I had concern because during our conversation and our meeting, I think it was the 24th of August, in that vicinity, we were told that there were people within the department that wanted to take the trees down on Barb's Hill Road. There were people that wanted to see, there's a mailbox on Barb's Hill Road that's been there for 65 years, and that's now an issue. There have been 3 accidents on Barb's Hill Road, and as Laney pointed out, nobody got killed in the accident. My husband drove a school bus for many years. He went down many roads. Anthony Road is a dead-end road. I mean, I know that you have to pull over. I'm the first one to admit that. When we had our meeting, the day that you came with Mr. Cardillo, you said, my father's trash container is there, and you said the rocks can stay there. That's not an issue. At this point, I don't quite understand what the improvements are beyond what you requested at the first meeting. If somebody could please explain that to me.
I can absolutely explain that. So, we did meet, we put some stakes along the road at a point that we were going to widen.
Exactly.
That was agreeable
To everyone.
between your husband and us, I suppose.
Mhm.
We wanted to go further, he didn't want us to go further, so we settled on this. So it was 8 inches, 10 inches, something like that, towards your home.
Mhm.
After the DPW came out and did that,
Everything was fine.
Mr. Balfour came into the, it wasn't fine. After DPW came out and did that, Mr. Balfour
Nope.
came into the town hall and he recorded something saying that we went too far, we were on his property, and that we needed to restore it to the way it was. He recorded it in the town vault, claiming ownership of the road, and then put stakes out on the road, including a metal stake. And that's when everything started to spiral. So I disagree with you when you say we were all set at the point that the road was widened, because it was at that point that Mr. Balfour came in and said, no, I own the road, you went too far, return.
Well, I think that it would be not as disagreeable to Mr. Balfour if it had continued down the entire length to the Coventry line, but that wasn't the case. We got to the top of the hill and that just stopped at that point. And
I'm not a scrapper. I'm not a scrapper. But it seemed a little bit strange that we went and we did this to a certain point and then it stopped all of a sudden. And I don't know
Unfortunately,
why.
whether it's agreeable
I
or
don't know
disagreeable
why.
really is not relevant to making the road safe for people.
So it only needs to be safe on that one stretch of the road and the rest of it's okay the way it is? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that his opinion of whether or not that's agreeable or disagreeable really has no relevance. The meeting was a courtesy. It wasn't a settlement, and it wasn't a resolution.
It's a reasonable question. So if we widen the road all the way down from end to end, it would be agreeable to you?
Is that agreeable to
From Plainview
everybody?
Road to the county line, we widen it to 2 hours?
Here's my concern about that, John. The fact that, Rocky said, everybody has stone walls on the road, from one end to the other. There are lots of stone walls there. And it's not just Barb's Hill Road, it's other roads. And if we keep encroaching a little bit more and a little bit more, eventually they will collapse. Now, I know Ed's initial concern was when he went out and they were cutting the grass on the side of the road. And Laney mentioned that, you know, there's a gutter there, there's a gully there. So if you cut the grass and make it even all the way across, it looks like it's safe to pull over on the side of the road unless you've been there for 30 or 40 years and you know it's there.
This was the day he came out and stopped the DPW from the brush on the side of the road you're referring to. Yes?
Down the road a little ways, yes, yes. And I mean, that wasn't being unneighborly. That was a safety issue at that point. I have to say, you know, at that point, I think there was genuine concern about the situation. I mean, agree or disagree with me, I just felt it was of concern at that point.
Mr. Cargill recognized it, and I spoke to him the same day that you were there. It was that when DPW cut the grass, where there's a drop down, where you then widen the road to within 2 inches of the culvert and within 2 inches on the other side. So if anybody drives over that, they're
You're
going
gonna be in a
into it.
swamp.
And in the wintertime, the plows come down there and plow the snow into the river. You can have other problems. We have a wetland. It's a wetland on our property on both sides of the road. It has a river that's already been worked out by DPW
By DEM.
and DEM.
I want to recognize Mr. Sabasio, he hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll come back. Mr. Sabasio.
You can go on with this all night. You have people's opinions. You have our attorney, you have a land use attorney on the council. And at this point, you can go on with this forever about who said what, when it was said, old deeds, new deeds, blah, blah, blah. If it has to be settled some other way, it has to go to court. And that's where it should go. So if Mr. Balfour chooses to go to court, like Mr. Riccio said, have at it, okay? Otherwise, you've heard pretty much everything you're going to hear today.
Can I just say one more thing? The other issue that I found really hurtful was the fact that I did write a letter to my neighbors to try to explain why there were sticks on the road, because we were told we put them there and we did not put them there, you know, with the stakes and things of that nature. We were told, we requested, I'm talking about on the corner initially, we requested this giant sign, which we never did. We requested to have I don't know what the name of it is, a sign which has a speed limit sign, 45 miles an hour. We didn't ask for any of those things. However, there are a lot of people that are under the assumption those are all things that we did and it was unneighborly. And we had nothing to do with any of that. I just want to clarify that. That's all. I just want to clarify it. Thank you.
All right, the point is, this meeting should have never even had to take place. Town Foster owns the road, they showed no proof,
We'll see you in court.
See, whatever you wanna do,
We'll see you
sir.
in court.
Say, have fun, have at it, we'll see you. So, we need nothing pushed out, neither do you, you have no proof.
I do have.
Where?
Okay, we're not gonna.
Fix the road, it's over, just take care of
Comments are
this.
directed here.
Done.
Sir?
Yeah, I know, can we take the rocks out the edge of the road now?
No.
Why not?
No,
The rocks are right on the edge of the road, why can't we
Okay.
get rid of those? There's nowhere to go, if there's a school bus or something coming the other way, where am I supposed to go? Right over those rocks and over my vehicle?
Okay, so,
Right on the road.
That's the public safety issue I'm concerned about. Here's my point, and this is what I brought up before, I've seen the locks there.
I'm sorry, Gordon, could you start over? I couldn't hear
The
you.
public safety issue on the corner there with the rocks, there's some rocks sitting there. As far as I know, the town owns 33 feet. So, I'm concerned with it being brought up now as a safety issue. If somebody comes around that corner and hits them rocks, we've just been informed that them rocks are causing a problem. I don't want to get sued sitting on this council after we've been notified that they're there. The town owns 33 feet. It's incumbent on them, as the solicitor said, to take us to court to prove otherwise. That being said, I think that's the case where it's going to have to be. We have to address the safety issue. If there's rocks that are within that 33 feet that are concerns to citizens, we must move them. That's where I'm at, and let it go to court.
I agree with that. I think not only do we have the right, but we have an obligation to maintain our roads safely, and I'm much more worried about that lawsuit. This one.
John, may I just say one more thing? It's not that anybody intentionally wants to drive on his grass. If we want to call it his grass, we can call it his grass. We don't care. But the rocks are there, so if 2 cars pass there, that's like the worst spot on our road. You can't. So if you had to pull over there, whoever is on that side is going to hit those rocks. There are other places, I think the only other corner that's tight, but not as tight as that one, is near Beauvais. But that's a little bit wider. But that one, and I mean, you stated that the culvert can be fixed, so nothing gets crushed, nothing gets broken, nothing gets ruined, and the water can flow. I mean, town, states, they do it all the time, fix the water issues like that. They can, I'm sure the highway is more than capable to fix that. And it's not that we want to, or intentionally going to drive on that area. But if somebody had to go over, then their vehicle's going to be ruined.
And just quickly, one other thing we didn't mention, on the big ugly curve, dangerous curve sign, go 15 miles an hour. Everybody on that road has driven that road for 40 years or close to it. And we don't need a sign to tell us to slow down here. They really do take away from the rural beauty of the road.
Must have blinded you, not
Yeah, quite blinding. So I would request one has been taken down. I would request that the other one, which is not as obtrusive to me, be removed. I don't think we need it. I think it ruins the road beauty. So, that said, thank you very much.
Come on.
On the rocks that's being discussed tonight, be replaced.
Yes.
Yes.
You'll have to ask them. They
Yes,
were
they
there
were.
the day that I was out there in September, so they're not this week newly placed.
But they've been replaced since the start of the widening of the road.
Just before, I think.
No, the
Yes.
first
The
day,
road was
before
widened.
we started anything on the road, we met with the Balfours, the rocks were there on that day.
Okay.
So that was September. I don't know how much earlier they were placed, if they've been there a month before or 10 years before.
I think that would be irrelevant anyway, it's a public safety
Right,
issue.
I understand, but I was just wondering when they were placed and by whom. And the sign, Mr. Cardell, you have Mr. Cardell, he placed those signs.
Those were the
and
ones, actually, when we had,
The state came in with all those stupid signs.
no, those were us. In fact, one of the things that came out of the initial meeting with the Balfours, they had commented that they were trucks, specifically mentioning UPS and FedEx, that were flying down the road at 40 miles an hour from the depot, at rates of speed that they thought were too fast. And we're talking about every car but those. So at that time, the police chief put his trailer down there and it counted the traffic, how many vehicles, what was the average speed of the vehicles.
I recall that.
And if you remember, then he recommended, there's no need to lower the speed limit on the road, but to put up a sign that says, curb ahead, be cautious, 50 miles an hour is the recommended.
Yeah, it was an advisory sign, not a.
Right, I recall that, yes.
Right, so those were signs put up by the town in relation to that. One of them was taken down, because it was on a tree and it was during the whole dispute.
Okay.
And we said, we're just gonna take that sign down, the other one's further up the road, and wasn't involved in this particular section. So is there a motion from the council, or is it just consensus that?
Well, I'd like a motion in this case, because I think it's the council's purview, as we sit here now, to make that decision of whether the road is widened or not, and improvements are made on it. And I see no indication that the road is anything but a town road, as Gordon said, 2 roads, and the interior, the stone walls and the interior are the property boundaries for everyone there.
Do you want to make that motion? Do you want to do it?
Go ahead, I'll leave it specific to within the boundaries of the town, 2-rod road, which is 33 feet.
Okay, so I would make a motion that Bob's Hill Road is indeed a public road, not privately owned, and that any services or improvements for safety reasons made to that road are indeed legal, with 2 rods being the measurable width of the road. Is that?
Yeah, second that motion.
Made and seconded, is there discussion?
I'd just like to add a little bit. Every time a telephone pole was installed on that road, I do believe it would have come in from the town for pole placement, and the reason for that being, those poles are placed within the 2-rod limits of 33 feet on town property. This town would have approved every pole going down that as proof that it was a town road.
And they would have been advertised on an agenda, and no one, I believe,
Correct.
ever objected to that.
Just wanted to add that into the discussion.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay, so at this point, the town has affirmed that we believe we are true owners of the road. And if we feel we need to sort out the ownership, then it needs to be done through the attorney. All right, that,
The rock's gonna be removed.
Not like it.
I'm on the way home, how's that?
I'm going to ask our solicitor for advice on that. Lisa,
No, you
yeah,
You started from.
Thank you.
okay, the question to the solicitor.
Yes.
The gentleman who was leaving asked how the rock's going to be removed.
I believe based upon our motion and what the council feels, yes, they should be. They're obstructing the roadway.
I think that should be on the first agenda, that we come tomorrow morning.
33 feet, if they were within 33 feet, I would say yes.
Okay, does everyone agree with that?
Most of them are 8 feet.
Is beyond.
What is recommending that the DPW design?
You heard all those roads.
Based upon the motion.
If he claims the rocks, maybe they could give them, put them on his property as opposed to remove them.
Mrs. Balfour is still here.
If he says they're his, then maybe they could be returned to him, we don't have to take them away if he doesn't want them.
What are we doing?
The rocks that are within the 33 feet that are a safety issue,
Yeah.
would you like to keep them?
Well, can I just push them back a bit?
As long as
Is
it
that, if I get my tape measure out and measure 33 feet?
I think unfortunately, if you measure 33 feet,
You're
you're
gonna go
gonna
wall to
find it's
wall.
all the way to the walls.
Yeah.
on both sides.
It is, I already measured it. It's from the wall to the pole.
It's much worse than he's
Exactly.
proposing.
I'm just confused because one day they're not an issue and the next day they are. So, what can I say? Things change overnight, that's all.
I only brought it up because there were citizens tonight that said it was a safety issue with the lots of home. So that me sitting on the council.
I understand what you're saying.
John, did you end this agenda item? Is this on the agenda?
Oh, yes.
No, the agenda item ended with the vote.
There was a follow-up issue, Mr.
I
Sabazio.
apologize.
It's still related to that.
Not at all, Mr. Balfour, I have one question.
Denise has a couple more questions.
Is this,
I might,
is this about this?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, again, if you enforce the 33-foot rule throughout this town, you would be impinging on a lot of properties that people believe, because we just haven't done it.
But I
But
think.
if you can work within that, and I would hope you would not push it to the end, but find common ground.
I don't think we would push it beyond a stone wall that exists. So if there's 33 feet between the two stone walls, then that would be the right of way. If there's 31 feet between the stone walls, I think that's probably where it would be.
and I agree, moving the soil beneath that would probably have the stone wall fall. So we have to do it within reason.
Okay. That is the final item on the agenda. It was here because it was volatile, obviously. The people on the road were in disagreement and it needed to come here for resolution. Future agenda items, liquor licenses on November 12, other town licenses December 10. We received a request from Cranston to transfer our yard-based allotment. Every town is allowed to dispose of so much yard.
And we don't use ours, because everybody throws it to that.
We don't use ours.
We'll sell it to them.
Other towns have asked us in the past, will you give us this, will you sell us this? So they've asked.
What's the public word?
Yeah. Are there any other further